Mukherjee, Principal, Arya Vidyapith Motihari, and as I promised, I'm back with the second part of the story, A Truly Beautiful Mind, for all of you, the students of now. In part 1, we've done till point number 9, right? So today, we will continue from point number 10. Alright? So without further ado, let's begin. Now point number 10. While Einstein was making various discoveries and he was coming up with his theory of relativity, his private life was in tangles. Tangles, it means that it wasn't doing so good. It wasn't so peaceful. Alright? Because he wanted to marry Mileva. You saw how he fell in love with Mileva. And he wanted to marry Mileva, but his mother came between the two and said no. Alright? Now let's see why. So point number 10. In your books, page number 49. Alright? Point number 10. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Unraveling, falling apart. You know, it wasn't doing so good, was in a bad shape. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, so Mileva was 3 years older than her son, and Einstein's mother thought she was too old for him. Alright? If she were 3 years younger, then maybe his mother would have had a different opinion. However, she thought she was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. You see, she was a woman of foresight. She had a foresight. She thought that Mileva today is very intelligent, right? Now, obviously, she would be a careerist. Okay? That is, she would be too concerned about her own career. So someday or the other, the two of them are going to clash. Because Mileva would think that she wasn't doing too good for herself. She would be a dissatisfied woman, a dissatisfied housewife, and then the two would clash. And this, you will see, is exactly what happens later. So, his mother's worry was that Mileva was very intelligent. She is a book like you, his mother said. Which means that she is very intelligent and she is a book lover. That is, she knows her own way. She has a voice of her own. So, she would not be satisfied being only a housewife. A day would come when she is going to claim her own position, and that would be the day when the two would clash. Alright? That is what her mother predicted. And Einstein put the wedding off. So Einstein, for the time being, forgot about Mileva and he postponed the wedding. However, in the next point, you see, Einstein finally married Mileva, but the marriage was soon on the rocks. On the rocks means it was destroyed. The marriage ended. It was finished. Now, let's go over to point number 11. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, see how Einstein's mother's prediction is coming true. A few years later, the marriage faltered. Faltered means to become unsteady. Okay? To become unsteady, which means the marriage was not doing so well. Why? Mileva was losing her intellectual ambition. See, every intelligent woman would somehow be a careerist. She would like to make a career and do well in her life. Now, what was Mileva reduced to? She was reduced to a housewife. Obviously, an intelligent woman would not like that, isn't it? So, Mileva was losing her intellectual ambition, which means that Mileva was not doing well professionally and becoming an unhappy housewife. This is exactly what Einstein's mother was concerned about in the past. Okay? After years of constant fighting, so they clashed, and after years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. The two separated, they sought a divorce, and the two separated. And finally, again, Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So in 1919, Einstein married his cousin Elsa. Alright? So, the next point. Theory of relativity was acclaimed as a scientific revolution. Okay? So, theory of relativity was very popular. It became very popular, and it became a scientific revolution. People said it was a scientific revolution, a revolution in science. So, point number 12. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. So, his personal chapter, means his personal life, coincided. That is, happened at the same time when he became world famous. So, in 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. A new interpretation, that is, a new perspective, a new point of view. Interpretation is a point of view, a new explanation. So, he gave a new explanation for gravity. Okay? An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. So, an eclipse of the sun happened in 1919 and it proved Einstein's theory correct. एक eclipse हुआ 1919 में और वो प्रूव कर दिया कि आइंस्टाइन जो कह रहा था वही सही है. So it proved his theory to be correct. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance. So Einstein had calculated the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. So he had calculated how the light from the stars would be deflected. Deflect is to move away from. Due to the sun's gravitational force, okay, the light coming from the stars would be deflected from its path. Because of the gravitational force, it would be deflected from its path. This is what Einstein had claimed. The newspapers proclaimed the work as a scientific revolution. Now, this was the first time that he said this. And so it was a revolution in the field of science. Okay? Now, coming to the next point. He received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. So obviously, सर्वोत्तम जो पुरस्कार था वो नोबेल होता है. And he got the Nobel Prize in 1921. Okay, so Einstein received, point number 13, Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. So he was showered by various prizes and awards, and he got a lot of praise for what he did, and he was lauded by the press. Lauded is praised. Tareef karna. Kisi ki tareef karna, that is lauding. So he was highly praised by the press, by the media. Okay? Coming to the next point. Now, a time came when Hitler's Nazis took over Germany. Germany was totally taken over by the Nazis. Okay? So, this time when the Nazis came to power in 1933, with Hitler assuming total power, with Hitler, becoming the dictator in Germany, Hitler obviously unleashed a lot of torture. Alright? He was an oppressor. He was a dictator. So, you've studied about Hitler, how Hitler, unleashed a lot of torture all throughout Germany. And this made Einstein uncomfortable. So, he decided to emigrate, that is, shift from Germany to the United States. So, point number 14. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated. Emigrated is to shift from one country to another. Right? So, emigrated to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission, of nuclear power, of nuclear bomb in Berlin had the American physicists in an uproar. Uproar means they made the physicists in the United States very unhappy, very upset, because Hitler could easily use the nuclear bomb against any country. To retain his power, Hitler could use it anyway. So the US became very uneasy, very uncomfortable. Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid that the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. Now fascism is a kind of dictatorship. Okay, so fascism, many people like Einstein had fled to Germany because of the oppression. तानाशाही जो है, उसके टॉर्चर से बचने के लिए कई लोग, आइंस्टाइन जैसे कई लोग यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका में शिफ्ट कर गए. Okay, so they had shifted to the United States because of the oppression of the Nazis, because of the oppression of Adolf Hitler. Okay? And they were now afraid that Hitler could use the nuclear bomb against any country. Okay? Right. The next point now. Einstein was deeply concerned because here you see Einstein as a humanist. You remember in part 1 I told you what made him a true genius is that he was a humanist at heart. Alright? So see, his humanism, how he was concerned about the welfare of other people. He wrote to the US President at that time, who was Franklin D. Roosevelt. He wrote to Roosevelt about the destructive power of the nuclear bomb. He wrote to Roosevelt, to President Roosevelt, that look, the nuclear bomb could be hugely destructive. So, we must be careful. For the good of the people, we must be careful. And we must take steps to prevent Adolf Hitler from using the nuclear bomb against anyone. Correct? So, that is what he wrote to President Roosevelt. Now, here comes the turning point. Einstein was shocked that he had written to Roosevelt, and he was shocked that when the US developed the nuclear bomb and used it on Japan in the year 1945, you remember? Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Right? Now, Einstein was absolutely shocked. He was shocked beyond words. He said that I was the person to warn President Roosevelt, and the US comes up with the nuclear bomb and it uses it on another country. I warned the US against Adolf Hitler, and he used it against another country like Japan. And you know the huge destruction that the nuclear holocaust, really kind of made, in Japan in 1945. You're all aware of that. The terrible damage to human lives, to human property. Okay? And even generations after the Holocaust, people are still suffering. So this is what nuclear bombs can really do. 1945, and this is 2020, and people are still suffering. Alright? And generations will keep suffering. This is what happens. This is the negative, the destructive power of nuclear bombs. So Einstein was shocked that he had warned the US, and the US comes up with a bomb that uses it against another country. So he was shocked. Okay? So, at the urging of a colleague, this is point number 15 on page 50 of the book. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, in which he warned a single bomb of this type, a nuclear bomb, exploded in a port. Port is a harbor, bandargah. बंदरगाह होता है ना जहाँ जहाज जो है वहाँ पार्क किया हुआ रहता है. So that is a port where ships are, kept. So he said that one nuclear bomb exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. So it could destroy the entire port along with some of the adjoining, areas. So that was the power, the destructive power of a nuclear bomb. Alright? His words did not fail to have an effect. So the US took it some other way. He had warned the US against Hitler, and the US took it some other way, and it developed its own bomb, right? And in a secret project, and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Okay, so this came as a shock to Einstein, who was a humanist. Right? So, coming to the next point. As a last resort is a hope. Right? As a last chance, as a last hope, as a last resort, Einstein wrote to the UN, the United Nations, proposing a world government. But, unfortunately, he did not get any response. So, he wrote to the UN saying that we need a world government. What would a world government do? Not a government of one particular country which can decide on its own. No. We need a world government, a government that would decide together what to do about such things as nuclear energy or nuclear bombs. Okay? So that way, what would be the use of a world government? The world government would actually give the go-ahead for the use of a nuclear bomb. Or if it said any country would have to destroy its nuclear bombs. So the world government would be a body which would tell the countries what to do about nuclear objects or nuclear bombs or nuclear energy or whatever. Okay? So one country could not act on its own and destroy another country. Okay? So one country cannot do anything on its own. So we needed a world government. That is what Einstein suggested. But he wrote a letter to the UN, but to no avail. The UN made no kind of, it did not give any response. It did not come up with any kind of response when he wrote this letter to the UN. Okay? So, Einstein did not succeed there. Alright, point number 16. Einstein was deeply shaken. He was deeply shocked by the extent of the destruction in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, alright, in Japan. This time, as a last hope, he wrote a public missive. Missive is a letter. He wrote a public letter to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government, alright, which would collectively take a decision on such matters as nuclear energy or nuclear power. Okay? Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. So the US had no response. Okay? But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating. Agitating is opposing and leading various campaigns, that is agitating, for an end to the arms buildup. So he led campaigns against such nuclear powers and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. So see how he was a humanist. He had no business doing that. But as a physicist, remember, as a physicist, he knew the destructive power of nuclear bombs, and he knew how countries could misuse the nuclear power. Alright? So, he campaigned for peace, he campaigned for democracy, for the equal rights of people. So that proves how he was a humanist. Alright? Now, coming to the last point, point number 17. He died in 1955 and he is still remembered today as a humanist, a person who fought for peace and democracy, a person who campaigned in favor of peace and democracy, and he is remembered as a humanist first and then as a scientist. So he passed away in 1955 at the age of 76, and he was celebrated as a visionary. Visionary is a person who can look into the future. So he was a visionary. Einstein was a visionary who could look into the future and understand the destructive power of nuclear bombs. Alright? That is the reason he wanted all nuclear powers to end their nuclear weapons, to neutralize their nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons could only bring destruction. Alright? So he was a visionary. He could envision the future. He could look into the future and understand the destructive power of nuclear bombs. And as a world citizen, he is remembered as a world citizen as much as a scientific genius. That is why I said he is first remembered as a humanist. पहले उन्हें ह्यूमनिस्ट के तौर पे जाना जाता है आइंस्टाइन को, और उसके बाद as a genius scientist. Okay? So here in this chapter you saw how Einstein was not just a genius. He was not just remarkable at physics. He was also a person deeply concerned with the welfare of people. Okay? So that's the chapter, folks. That is the chapter, A Truly Beautiful Mind. I'm sure you found it interesting. I've done the entire chapter with you. Alright? So, I hope you will study it again on your own. And if you have any problems, you're most welcome to get in touch with me. Okay? So, until we meet again, it's bye from me. Stay safe, stay at home, and keep studying. Bye-bye.